snow jacket.
No, straight out of Mission Impossible, man.
No. Listen.
Why is that?
Because.
You want to look like you're cruising?
No.
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 Yes, maybe, yes, mate.
Because it's 60. What do all our offices need to be like? 17 degrees?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tony Robbins. That's it.
Pitch black?
Yeah.
So 17 degrees and pitch black. So you can see the thought in your head. But before we start, these are my rules, Daniel, especially for you, for what you did a second ago.
Yeah.
And you too, James. There, you cannot sound like a news reporter.
Yeah.
You cannot, I'm doing it now, but you cannot bring two hands together
Yeah.
and do any type of weird,
Yeah.
you know. So there's no news reporter talking. There's just only the truth.
Yep.
There's only talk about what we actually have done or know. Yeah, but no news reporter. That's the thing for me,
Yeah.
right? And no talk about hard work and all of that because it's not true.
Yeah, we don't.
You know what I mean? Like,
That's the good shit.
Yeah,
like, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like just say the truth, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Say the truth.
Wait,
of
so
it is.
what
Like,
do you
don't,
then-
Don't be concerned about saying what the actual truth is because, you know, you don't want to go out there, some poor guy's listening out there and going, he listens to something and he says all about hard work and resilience. And they talk about resilience and all this sort of stuff, but it's not. My dad worked. Look, your dad, successful. Did he decide to be a billionaire?
No. He's watching Foxtel half the day.
Oh, well, that's good. He chose to do that. But my point is, up until a certain period, our parents worked hard.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
They
right.
were resilient through challenges.
Yes.
Did they really get to where exactly they wanted to go? We'll never know. But the reality is, hard work and resilience wasn't the answer. Hard work and resilience is so you can survive, not so you can thrive. So we don't want to be talking about hard work and resilience. We want to be talking about the real stuff that's driven. And even if people don't understand it, it's okay. Just say it. The truth is the truth.
But you can admit, you used to work hard when I first started with you.
What do you mean by work hard?
Like you were 6-7 days. You're always doing stuff. You're always on. Like 8 o'clock.
Why do you think that's
9.
working hard?
Well, maybe it's not. Maybe just proactive.
That's what I mean.
I felt like you weren't a micromanager at all, but you always were present. You always were saying, what are you doing? What's going out there? Where are you moving towards?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, presence is different than working hard. You probably have to work hard when not
Like
present.
you were on me, but I didn't feel like you were watching every single thing.
Yeah, but starting from the top. We'll start from here and then we'll go back, right? So Daniel, you're like Ibrahim and I actually wrote on Instagram that you work 4 days a week, but then Ibrahim and I, because Ibrahim is, you know, he's come from
Ibrahim's
he's come from the real estate side.
Yeah, man. Like
He
sales
come-
manager.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when he first came, you know, I didn't even know what he was saying.
Yeah, it was-
lead generating and all that sort of stuff, which is fair
got
enough
trophies
because
and
he was
everything,
very successful. But he came in, and I said, you know, Daniel works probably 4 days a week. I didn't even know what GCI was till 2 years ago until your mum brought my attention to it. Honestly, I was calling it like stuff from the film.
CGI.
Yeah, CGI. Okay, what's your CGI, mate? Anyway, so Ibrahim comes in. I discuss it with him, and I go, you know, he goes, you know, you're wrong about Daniel working 4 days a week. I go, what do you mean? He goes, I've observed him now since I've been here for 8 months. He said, I actually used him as a case study in our team that Daniel is pound for pound the biggest rider in Australia based on the hours he works. And he calculated that you work 6 hours a week. What do you have to say about that, mate?
Nah, that's not true, man. Open homes on a Saturday, that probably equates to about 3 or 4 hours.
No? No, but it's true.
Nah, but it is true. But that's only because it's what you said. What you said to us at the start, this is what I've learned every time, is if an owner, not even an owner, if anyone, like if you're doing something and then someone says to you, like for an example, if an owner says to you, hey, did the brochures come in? Really excited to see them. Like you're behind now you're working. Now you're like, oh, now I'm doing this. You might say to someone that's working with you, go and drop a brochure there now, blah, blah, go and do this. But you always said to us, like, if you preempt everything, say with an owner, I'm just using this as an example because people understand real estate. If you've got it just on the market and you've got an owner that's waiting for a signboard, then a brochure and everything, and you say to them, guys, signboard should be up in 2 days, we'll let you know. And the next day you say to them, guys, got a call from Dingo, they're going to put up the signboard tomorrow, keep an eye on it in the morning. And then when you see this, you get a message about the signboard, you message the owners, you say, signboard's up, looks fantastic.
Except for you're not doing any of that.
No.
The system.
But I was.
Yeah.
But I was doing
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
about that-
Oh, well, yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. And then that's that. when
You were, and then what? Before
But
the,
that- but
before
that
the
makes you-
systems,
yeah.
I used to have like I remember one day I was hammering you because of that, because you weren't
Yes,
preempting.
I remember. Yeah,
And then you turned around and you said to me, "I've got a headache. Can I go home?"
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that's also because it got torn to shreds.
yeah.
Like
You
he
had
went
a
purple
headache,
with
yeah.
the veins coming
You
out.
had a
People
headache,
know
you had a
if they know Omar when he gets
You
purple
had
with
a
the veins
headache, you
coming
had a
out.
headache, and you had to go home. But
Yeah.
anyway, so and James, in the real estate world, to speak that language, 2 million or whatever, or something like that. So $100 million, just over $100 million. That's how many people you're impacting, about 70, 80 people a year,
Yes.
right? And it's resulting in that sort of number.
Yes.
And I'd say you're the same. I don't want to put the wrong impression out there. It's not about not putting an effort in. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there are reasons why you guys are probably doing impacting significantly more, doing what's perceived to be significantly less, right? So you're at that number now,
Yes.
and that's where you're at now, yeah?
Yeah. So obviously, I worked with you when I've never been anywhere else. I've only came to this company. Lucky for me, but I was working with you for 4 or 5 years, and all of these touch points of what Daniel's saying. But like, even my wife at the end of the day calls me and says, "Did you do any work today?" And
Good wife. That's a good wife.
yeah, definitely. Before, like, obviously we were preempting doing these things. Now the app's taken all of that out of our lives. So I feel like our impact of what we're saying to people because of these principles we're going to, like getting the maximum out of what we're doing with little, exerting a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and you guys do that very well. So you guys you've actually done that really well. But you know what? I have nothing to ask you guys. I actually
Ready
don't
game?
care.
We have nothing
I
interesting.
actually don't care.
We have nothing interesting.
I actually don't care about anything. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. No, it's not about questions. I'm trying to get to the bottom. People want to know. What do you think people want to know, Daniel? What do you think people want to know out there, right?
People want to know how much money Omar has.
First thing is like the coffee analogy.
What's coffee analogy?
So basically, when I started, Omar said, when you go to a coffee
Listen,
shop...
what are we doing? What are we talking about this?
Oh, you're talking about the hot coffee with the
listen,
biscuits?
Yes, the
Yeah,
biscuits.
that's a good analogy,
Listen,
man.
forget this sheet of going through some checkpoints of what we're going to talk about. What's this nonsense, man?
Chuck it out.
Wait,
Hey, you got bloody sheet.
Hold on,
There's some good stuff on there. I just saw a couple of good things.
Jackson Irvine.
No,
Madrid.
Listen, we'll get to Jackson Irvine in a second. I told
Yeah,
you
right,
that's a
mate.
contentious issue. We cannot
Yes,
speak
yeah.
about that yet because we argue about that all the time.
big thing.
But listen, I want to say this. You guys are some of the first people that came on board.
Yes.
What people don't understand is this. Before you guys came on board, I had brought on a couple of people that came out of typical real estate sales. Okay, within 5 minutes, we were butting heads. Everything, marketing, being in videos, messaging, what they say, how they say, their beliefs, how they impact, wearing name tags to open homes because they thought that, they're still at school in kindergarten. I mean it with respect, right?
Yeah.
Really weird stuff,
Yeah.
okay, that I found was bizarre. So then I thought, I can't do this, right? So I shut everything down and I started again. And then what I did was I was looking for people that, not that I wanted to avoid, but I kind of did want to avoid the kind of frequency of the whole real estate thing, right? So I went and found people not. Now you were, where were you working?
I worked at Fitness First selling gym memberships.
Okay, Fitness First, selling gym memberships. And Daniel?
I was working at Pizza Hut.
He was great, mate. Yeah, but you were door-to-door salesman.
I
at
was
Pizza
door-to-door,
Hut.
mate, every day, man.
You were getting the tips.
I was.
Anyway, so then you came into the office. You said you're super nervous, and you came into the office, and you were super cocky.
Character issues, yeah.
Little
Bit of an ego for no reason, yeah.
And then what happened? So you were at Fitness First, right? Because people, here's the thing. There's something you do need to work intentionally on. I call it the exorcism. It's removing the character that's holding somebody back against talking about adding things. People ring me, what advice do you have? Yeah, destroy half your character. That's my advice. And keep the good stuff and rebuild on that. Oh, how do I do that? So you guys did that. But anyway, you came from Fitness First.
Yep.
And then we had a bit of I remember, like, you were very, very, like, you had no idea about how anything worked.
Yes.
So for me, I was like, I showed you Nike videos. I showed you Apple. I showed you all this stuff. And you started to learn messaging, communication, how it goes out, what value add is, right? And you started to know. You didn't know anything about anything.
We even did hostage negotiation.
Yeah, we did all sorts of stuff, right? Now, you, James, I remember, and this is for people out there because everybody starts at one level, but they forget where they were generally, right, in relation to what their character was. And I remember, James, remember that time with the pointer signs?
Yes.
Where you came in?
Yeah.
What happened there?
Yeah, so I had a bit of a late one, and obviously as you're younger, you make some silly decisions. You're out really late. I think I went to bed at maybe 5 a.m. and came to work. Oh, I got a call from you saying, why aren't the pointer signs out? And that was about 8 o'clock. And we were meant to get the pointer signs out about 6, 7 o'clock. And we had our first open home at 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock. And then Oma said, you're not coming in today, meet me at the end of the day. And I think that was a turning point for me because I was like, everything I've been doing so far. And that was like, some bad decisions. Oma meets with me in the office. We have a coffee.
We went outside to the shop across the road. Daniel was with us. Daniel, you came.
Yeah.
You were everywhere. I don't know why.
Every meeting I've been there.
I don't know why you were there. But you were in that
And
meeting.
everyone's been through it, so I know there's other.
And do you remember
other
what
young
I
kids
sat
that
down
go
and
through
the
this
conversation
make
that we
decisions.
had?
Yes, and Oma said to me, "Tell me right now, were you actually sick?" Because I said I was sick and all that stuff. I said, "Were you actually sick, or did you have a late night and drink and whatever?" And I said, "I'll tell you the truth."
Yeah, but before that, I remember we sat down and I said to you, and this is the thing for people out there. There's a whole thing of don't judge, give someone 70 excuses, right? Otherwise, we could have sat down, we could have said, "See you later, James," and we wouldn't have this unbelievable guy.
That's right, yeah.
And that was the turning point because if I lied there, who knows where I'd be right now.
Yeah, and
you literally said that.
Because you need to set the foundations of what relationships are going to be like. Because the relationships you have with each other are the relationships you have with the public, right? So when James came in, we sat down and I said to you, I said, look, you know me, I'm like an investigative journalist if I want to be. So I said, I'm going to give you an option here. Remember? I said, I'm going to give you an option.
But you wanted to see. You didn't press me too hard. You were like, let's see. Is your character good enough to say the honest truth straight away?
Yes.
And I did that. And then...
But the way, if somebody's out there and they want to do that with someone, it's very important that if you just come in and you just say to someone, you shouldn't do that for your own benefit, they're not going to tell you what's going on. But if you sit down and you say, look, I'm going to investigate everything that's happened here, and I may not find out about it 1 year, 2 years, 3 years down the track, but eventually I will. And we're here to build something great, and you're here to improve your life, and you're here to do this with your vision. You're here to get where you want to go. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell me, were you sick, or did you do something else and that prevented you from coming in? And then just went silent. And you turned around and you said, actually, no.
Actually, no, I did something. And it's a good, as now we're leaders, we've got teams now, we've got young kids, trying to help them. You always tell us, don't forget who you were when you were at their stage. And it's easy now because obviously we're men, we're married, we've got kids and whatever, and we're obviously completely different people. But I just always try and remember what you say of remembering who I was and then giving them those excuses, as you said. And then also remembering if you got rid of me that day, like you said, I wouldn't have been this person. I wouldn't have been this, valuable person to the company. And if I've got younger people that are in that this decision of going, do I become successful and do something, or do I not? It gives me those excuses to say, remember how I came out.
Yeah, and what are you trying to do? Like at the end of the day, I was saying this to Ibi yesterday. I said that if you're building a team, and you guys have one now, if you're saying that what you want to do is you want to build a team, and the outcome of that is they're going to go on, live their lives, have a great vision, and then you're going to also benefit from that because they're actually within your team and you're serving each other, then you have to give something of benefit to earn that. And that means you have to give your empathy, you have to give your leadership, you have to transfer your belief, you have to sit down and have a conversation with them. And so from there, we talked about motivation, inspiration, all of that. Like, showers wear off just like that does.
Yeah.
So how often are you in people's lives? And so we started to build that together.
Yes.
And one of the things we said by 30. What did we say? We said like by 30.
Yeah, and you said it to my mum as well, and she'll probably...
I saw her at an open home one day, and
she cried when it happened because she saw you and spoke to you, but you said you said to my mum, James will be married, he'll have a kid, and he'll be successful.
By 30.
Yeah, and little things like that, since that day, you messaged me 5 times a day, like you were so present, and of just this communication of getting me there, and obviously saw that I was willing to go there. And by that time as well, at the end of every single year, I remember we wrote out a couple goals of what we wanted for the rest of the next year.
Visions. We wrote them in present tense.
And just before about 27, I think I was in your team, moving into my own team to like start my own thing. And you said, we went to Cronulla that day, and we sat together, and you showed me. I wrote out, I want to do 50 million worth of sales or whatever, find my wife, and something else.
And then we switched it in present tense.
Yes, and 3 weeks later, boom, my wife just appeared out of nowhere. So that's just one thing, just for that. Obviously, it starts with belief, manifestation, like having that constant, that messaging, and having the vision of where you're going. It just all happens just as soon as you believe.
So how many people are out there right now? That could be something incredible, but all that they need is a little bit of direction and belief. How many, right? How many? And so as you guys build your teams, that's what you're focused on now, to be able to transfer the vision. And people, like the way I looked at it is I wanted to build something, and we're going to build something that's going to go worldwide. We're going to build something huge. And what I wanted to do is you guys were a part of that. So in my head, I had to serve you, not the other way around, right? I had to serve you. Yeah. But when you first come in, what are the things that we were doing that really, most people say go out, go door knock, go get leads. What were we really focused on?
Focus fully on principles straight away.
Yes.
I'd love for you to tell the story, because you probably said it better, but in our induction with the gentleman on the train, when people come in.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can...
Yeah. Like we're like, and it's something that you get in, it's like a perspective shift, and you find it in great books. And what it basically would say is, I'd like to get an understanding of how you see the world. So I'd say you've had a really long day. You've turned up, you're on a train. You sit on the train and you've just had enough. You sit down, you've had your dealings at work, you sit down, you put your backpack down, you're ready to go home after a long day. In the background, you see a gentleman. That gentleman's got 3 kids. 3 kids start jumping up and down, going onto the seats, throwing things around. You look to the gentleman, you're starting to get annoyed. You're thinking probably control your kids, right? Gentleman's asleep, lying down. His eyes are closed. What are you guys thinking? What did you used to think?
When I started, I was thinking, it's annoying, and I couldn't see any other side. And
And then we'd turn around, and in an instant we'd give you a perspective shift. And we'd say, well, what if you go up to the person, you yell at him, and you say, listen, take care of your kids. And that person turns around, opens his eyes, looks up at you, and says, I'm so sorry. We just came back from the hospital, and something's happened to their mother. How do you feel now?
That was a massive perspective.
Yeah. So people's reactions to situations don't have enough information for them to have that reaction. And so one of the modules was deep empathy.
We had that on the back of the office.
Yeah.
We had that in a big thing on the back of the office.
Exactly. And then how does that now translate into you guys becoming absolutely top people? Now back to you guys don't do that much effort relative to the outcome. Well, you're deep in your conversations, and we've embedded that early in your subconscious, right?
That's right.
Daniel, you did it many times. Do you remember that time where the developer came and said to you, go and nobody can speak to this lady?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
In Reesby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they said what? Nobody can speak?
Oh, we've had this agent go out there, and some prominent agent took his principal out there, and they went there and whatever, and blah, 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 and one can get a hold of her.
How old were you?
Oh, 21.
You're like maybe? 21, 22.
21, 22.
Yeah, and so what did you do?
So then I was like, all right, you know what? I'll go there, but I'll only go there if I can understand their situation. Like the back of the thing said, seek first to understand before being understood.
Yep. So what did you do when you knocked on the door? And what was her reaction?
So I knocked on the door, and she's like, who is that? And I'm like, and I knocked again, and she goes, who is that? And I'm like, I just got to ask you something. I got to tell you something about next door. And then she flung open the door and still had the fly screen, and she's like, what do you want? I'm like, I'm not trying to, I don't want to intrude or anything like that. They got next door that's going on the market, and if someone builder buys it, you're probably going to get all this disruption, and people are going to start, if people drive by and if people put their utes there or something, or they park over your driveway, can you let us know, please? Because I don't want people coming in and they just think, it's on the market, I'll just go see it, I'll park my ute in the driveway, they park over your driveway, and then you get the shits and you can't even leave. And she goes, "Oh, do you have a card, love?" And I'm like, "Yeah, here, take it. Just call me. I'm not asking for it. I don't want to talk to you. I just take this and."
And I remember
it.
she got into the conversation about the developers.
And then she's like, "Oh, so what are they doing there?" Blah blah. And I'm like, "I don't know."
And what was that like? That lady's true issue was she was nervous, she was scared, she was anxious about the situation.
Yeah, and then to couple that, she had 10 agents knocking on the door every week.
And what were those agents and the developers assuming about that lady's position?
That, we're gonna, mate, we'll get you a top offer. We'll get you the offer here, and to her,
And
it's
what
like,
do you
I don't
think she
care
was
about your.
really thinking?
She's like, man, just leave me. I've been here for so long. I don't want some bloke to come next door and he builds some monstrosity, and then I'm surrounded by all these buildings and I don't have what I had before.
Yeah.
I've got a nice backyard and that, and you're gonna come and some guy's gonna build this massive big building next to me, and I'm gonna sit here and be like, what the hell am I
People's gonna come
surrounded
and
by?
bother and knock on
Yeah,
the
I
door
want
and
to get
ask her
people.
things.
Yeah,
Exactly.
people are knocking on my
Privacy,
door.
leave me
Trying to leave
alone.
me alone.
And we did that often. And I remember.
I went in there for like half, 45 minutes.
You left with a peanut butter sandwich.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
But
yeah.
genuinely not.
But she was a nice person.
Very nice.
And the people that were approaching her,
I still talk to her.
Yeah, couldn't see the reaction. They couldn't see past it. And then James, we had one. I remember we took you in the car and we had a property in Clark Street. It was in Peakhurst, and across the road there was an agent door knocking. And I remember they had left, and then I said to you, go let them know about what's happening with Clark, because I think it's important, right? Because we've got a massive open home on the weekend. And do you remember they said to you something like, as you were talking, they said, "Oh, I can't stand real estate agents. They're just coming in and asking me if I want to sell my house or whatever it may be." Yep. But she's talking to you, and you're a real estate agent.
Exactly right. Yeah.
And so it's not that they can't stand real estate agents. They can't stand that the self-interest of the person speaking is about them, not the person that they're speaking to.
Correct.
Do you remember as well? I won't name names, but like, do you remember that lady? And she could win the other office in Riverwood, right? And she's got a big property. Like everyone wants, like it's the best of the best property, right? And she walked into the office and she goes, I don't want anyone to call me. I don't want any of this. If someone can just print me out some sales of what's happening in the area, and I'll come and pick it up tomorrow.
Yep.
And then we were like, all right, no worries. And then we just made like a little booklet, left it with whoever was working there, like at the front. We left it there and said, look, if this lady comes in, can you just hand it to her and say that's from us. She wanted to pick it up tomorrow. So no worries. She came in, she picked it up the next day, right? And she told us where she lived, and it was obviously cream of the crop. We didn't say anything to her. And then it went like 3 months later. And then she was across the road, I think, or something, or she came into the office again and she was like, is that guy still here? I want to ask him something to do with my house. And then even so, we didn't ask for her name, we didn't ask for her number, we didn't ask for no email, none of that.
What have we always said? Don't ask someone's where they live, and don't ask for their number.
Yeah.
I know it contradicts everything out there.
Yeah.
I know it does.
Yeah.
But you know what it doesn't contradict? It doesn't contradict human decency.
Correct, 100%.
That's what it doesn't contradict.
Yeah.
Okay? It doesn't contradict that.
Well, everything I've learned from you is we do nothing direct. Like everything is indirect. Everything is just like to the person's self-interest. That it doesn't feel invasive or like pressuring,
Yeah.
And that's why I think Daniel and I can say, and we've learned this from you, why our output doesn't need to be as much is because it has their self-interest in mind. We have empathy and care for their situation. And it's
but for those people out there that's empathy and care for the situation, and they're thinking for sure, they're thinking for sure out there. Yeah. Oh yeah, empathy and care. Yeah. Sales pitch. Yeah. It's not. It's not. And we've proved it many times because we've walked away from many things.
Oh, 1,000%.
And no matter how much you try and replicate a letter and you try to write something, at the end of the day, the core frequency of your what your authentic nature is and your intent will rise to the surface one way or the other.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So if you want to start changing something within your business, don't change with the marketing. Don't change with the marketing message.
Yeah.
Don't change with your sales tactics. Change with your intent.
I was about to say, change with your intent.
Change with your intent. What are you truly doing there? And for those who turn around and say, oh yeah, whatever, that's your sales. Like, I find it insane that intentionality is not spoken about more often.
Yeah.
Because that's the belief.
Yeah. Because when we first started, we were never talking about how many sales have we done for the month?
No.
What's the GCI for the month? Are we on track? Are we off track? Or whatever. It was never any of that. It was literally once we've got something to sell, it's like does everyone during that whole campaign have an unbelievable experience?
And
If
what do you
they
mean
do,
by
that
that's
is
it.
everyone?
what do you mean by everyone?
And you always said this to us. Wait, you always said this to us too. You always said, you're gonna have the same buyer go to 5 different open homes. If that buyer finishes on that Saturday and doesn't say, those people are Oz Realty, those boys, that girl, that guy, whatever it is, they were the nicest. They remember you. If they don't, then you've done a shit job.
100%.
And that's that's the hard work part that everyone is thinking. I need to ask them. Oh yeah, that's fine. So get into the door and all this kind of stuff. But it's like if you leave them thinking, that guy was a gentleman.
The hard work is actually the easy work.
Yeah.
And it might feel like hard work if you're not genuine.
Yeah,
but
that's
if you're
right.
genuine, how's it hard work?
Yeah.
You're constantly, like, let's put it out there. The other day, I went off at a new guy who joined the business.
Correct.
Yeah? New guy joins the business. I don't get involved in people's teams unless you bring them to me, right?
Yes.
And we had a conversation with this person.
Yeah.
And he's going to go on to be something spectacular. Yes. But the guy could not comprehend something. He's come from some core company. He's doing calls. I don't know what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
And he couldn't comprehend one universal truth. You are always emitting an energy and an intentionality to everyone around you.
Yeah.
So it's not what you're saying, it's what you're emitting, right? And so when you're in and I went pretty hard on him, remember?
Yep.
And how was that conversation?
Yeah, but it needs to happen.
But that needs to
It wasn't
happen,
about
man.
how many leads you got or how many sellers
Yeah.
or hot sellers.
Nobody
it was
cares.
No one
completely
cares.
about character.
It's
Once
about,
character's
but
fixed.
you know what? I find it crazy. You're a salesperson out there, right? Selling is a transfer of energy and character. If you are at an event and there's 400 people at the event, just because those 400 you're not in, you're on a free market appraisal mode, right? It doesn't mean that those people don't need your service.
Yeah.
So if they are watching you from a distance, what do you drink? How do you move? How to behave? How do you speak to people? How do you handle those conversations?
Yeah.
So people say to me, oh, you're your stuff. Oh, you like trying to be Mother Teresa. Even if I wasn't well-intentioned, you would still need to use that strategy effectively because you're sitting in a room and you are constantly emitting, do I trust him or don't I trust him? Do I trust her or don't I trust her? And so this guy, I had to have a conversation with him and I said, mate, you behave like that, just a smidgen out of what you should be behaving, you're going to end up leaving this place and you're going to tell all the reasons of why it didn't work. And we're both going to know that you were the problem.
Yeah.
Or there's 2 paths here. There's a vision where you go on, change family's life and do something spectacular for the rest of your life. Or there's a vision where you jump place to place and you keep talking about how something worked, how something didn't, what that person said, what that person didn't. Which path do you want to take?
100%.
Because I'm going to choose it for you.
Yeah. The one thing I wanted to add to that is just a little side note off that is what I noticed a lot of like people coming in or outside. There's you've always taught us to be one person here, one person at home, okay? And you see these guys come in 2 phones. You see these guys come in 2 Instagrams.
Why do you have 2 phones?
Why do you have 2 Instagrams?
Yeah.
One of a business page, one of a personal page. I've noticed the successful people are one person here, one person at home, one person at the shops, and my number one thing that you've always told me that I just think sits in the top of my head is. You used to say, when I go to Woolworths, I want to see the people that I deal with day to day and them to look at me with respect and say, hello, sir, when I'm with my kids.
Yes.
And if I was ever to see them to say, oh, look, there's James, that guy. Oh, like that's the
Do you know what the
ultimate
most
thing for me.
Do you know what the most tiring thing is in the entire world? Being 2 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like that's why I say don't be a reporter. So you're sitting here going, well, let's talk about what's
Let's talk
happening.
about waking up
Let's
4
talk
a.m.
about
routine.
4 a.m. what's happening in the market.
Yeah, that
fair
makes
enough.
sense, though.
Fair enough. You heard it somewhere.
Yeah.
But then suddenly, and I said this the other day. I said, we use the word Kelly? Okay, Kelly was a universal name for everybody in your marketplace. Kelly doesn't care.
Nah.
Okay, Kelly doesn't care. Kelly doesn't care about what you're thinking, what you're saying. Kelly cares about what benefits her.
Yeah.
When you put a message out there or you emit something out there, what does Kelly care about? If you keep thinking about her, you do not need to go and study a million things. You need to study her situation. Kelly does't care. Always remember that.
But you know what? Everyone, I reckon everyone knows that's true as well, especially like when they meet you, yeah. Because even if I'm an owner wanting to sell, if I saw you at the shops, you'd be the same as what I saw you.
What are you laughing for?
Because everyone knows. I don't explain.
Well,
What you say?
what's the segue? What's the segue?
Wait.
Why are you giggling before you speak?
No, because this is what you say to an owner, yeah.
But hold on,
hold on.
there's a thought in your head right now.
I'm gonna get to it
that's
now.
happening that made you laugh like that.
Yeah, because I'm gonna get to it. Because I'm gonna get to it now.
I know what it is.
Because I'm gonna get to it now. Because I remember from when I used to go to listing presentations with you. From now and whatever, right? It's all the same person. And you used to go into the. I have so many memories of which ones and things. But anyway, so you say, right now I don't care about being your friend. This is not what I'm here to do. I'm here to give you a great experience. I'm here to get you the maximum price. That's the only thing right now. If I get that and then we become friends, all right, great. But right now we're not here to talk about being friends or anything like that.
I'd say that up front.
Yeah, up front all the time.
Because it's genuine.
Yeah.
That's the truth. Like
the truth.
you have to sit there and you have to have a conversation. If you have value and you're there to solve a problem, the conversation cannot be about building in genuine rapport.
Yeah.
What's more rapport building? Me talking about what you follow, or me having a conversation with you about you need to get from here to here. You're there to change your life from that move. People say it's not life-changing. It is.
Yeah.
Go and move your house. Go and move your family. Go and have a conversation with your kids. Hey, Dad. Hey, Lana. Hey, Zara. We're moving from this beautiful house. We're moving to something else. Circumstances change. Something happened. Go and have that conversation, right? And you'll see how life-changing it is. And because where you live becomes your environment.
Correct.
So
They're going to be like, I can't go. That's my room. Why is someone going to be in my room?
It's an emotional attachment. So you get up and leave from here to here. I step into this place, and I'm supposed to make you feel comfortable that I support the same rugby team you support.
Yeah.
Well, I don't. I don't support the same rugby team you support. I don't even like rugby.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what I do like. I like maximizing the outcome for the people that I serve because I know how much it means to little Lana and little Zara that next move changes your life. And here's a plan. And if by the end of this, I get you the maximum, which I'm going to get, and you're going to go on to have the greatest life, then maybe we form a genuine friendship in there. And if we don't, I'll always be accessible to you and you can give me a call.
Yeah.
Why go outside of that truth?
Yeah, 100%.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We always did that, right?
Always, every single time. I could name 100 situations.
Yeah, so you got 2 Instagrams, 2 phones. I get why they're doing it because they think they have to be one. But you know when you bring one energy together? You bring one energy. You ever seen the Thor hammer where he puts it up and all the electricity comes from the sky? It just comes in as one energy and boom.
And that's why I think belief is so important, the app you've created and everything. Because everyone, the one thing, when I saw this company start, when we were at that little smaller office.
I'll speak a bit louder.
Sorry. When we were in that little shoebox office up the road before we got so big, everyone, and this is what Perry said to me as well, everyone that he ever dealt with said, Oz Realty agents are all the same. They're all unbelievable. Everything they say they do. The sales are, they maximize the outcome. That app that's why I think it's beneficial.
Well, that's why we grew because look, we'll put it out there, right? So we've got some unbelievable feedback. But as soon as we went from 20 people, 50 people, 60 people, 100 people,
I was a bit scared about that. Are
Yeah,
they going to be us? Are they going to be like me and Daniel?
Exactly.
Are they going to be like you?
You started to see, and that's why I didn't scale it.
Yeah.
You had 50 people.
Well, you started to see that even with all the tech and the situations, human to human, the complexity of the relationship, cracks started to appear in the company for the first time.
And we started to hear things. We're like, we never heard that.
That doesn't sound like us.
Before.
It doesn't sound like us. But you know what was great about that? Joyce and I got to see the exact gap that created that.
Yeah.
And because the system's there, it went back through the AI, found the gap, fixed the system, and out it goes again.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for it. But man, you know me. I see something like that, I can't sleep.
Yeah, you want to shut the whole thing down.
I want to shut the whole thing down.
Straight away.
Yeah.
How many times have I said to you, if
One
it's not
person
going,
was pissed off and you said, I want to
if
shut
one
the whole
person's annoyed, I want to shut the whole thing down because I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, hold on, we put it out there, all of us, that we're going to solve a problem. Are we becoming part of it or are we actually solving it? But then you've got to know that things happen sometimes and you've got to say, what was the intent of the person?
Yeah.
And then you've got to say, maybe it's us, maybe it's the process. And that's what belief's done. Now it's allowed us to scale something really huge. So I think that's good.
Do you remember when we used to drop the chocolates to the agents in the area?
Yeah, and people still think,
It's a bit weird or something.
Yeah, well, what I used to say to you
But
guys. What
everyone
did I
would
used to say to you guys?
I used to say if their pointer sign is down, pick it up, put it back in.
That's why.
Because you always said to us right from the start that there's no competition. This word competition, it doesn't exist. Yeah. Like
You
it
say
doesn't.
we're swimming,
That's
they're
my
running. It's a
competitor.
whole different
That's
sport.
with this. We never thought about it like that ever.
Yeah,
it was always focus on yourself. Those guys are working within your.
Those guys are doing what they know with
Yeah.
what they have.
So help them out. If
Guy,
they need-
can I tell you something? There's this thing I learned. You actually like this. I learned it right. This is pretty good. And it said this, and that's why belief's so important. Your belief's right at the start of what you want to be. It said that if you believe someone has wronged you at some point in your life, right? And you keep thinking about that.
Yeah.
You keep thinking about that. What ends up happening is you multiply that feeling back to that event over and over again. And soon you slip into becoming a victim. And when you slip to becoming a victim, you think about the injustice of that moment. And so what happens then is the injustice of that moment starts to manifest itself in every part of your life. So you look at everything that happens in your life, you see all the injustices.
Correct. Yeah.
And then that multiplies again. So if you were to turn around and say, that person, right? Remember when we opened in South Hurstville and somebody went and stuck a sticker on one of the agents went and stuck a sticker on our board saying we're number one in the area. And what did I say to you guys?
said leave it there.
I said leave it there.
Yeah.
Leave it there. And when you walk in, give them the advertising that they deserve.
Yeah.
And every time you walk into the construction site, make sure you close the door so everybody can see that that's the case. And we left it there. And we left it there. And we left it there. Because at the end of the day, I have to keep thinking people are doing the best they can with what they know.
Correct.
And when you start believing that, you do not link any type of injustice to that moment.
That's right. Yeah.
Which means you are fully in control and you're powerful from the inside out. And that's what we spoke to you guys about. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of instances of that.
Yeah. 100. Heaps.
Like the pointer sign. You've had the chocolates.
The pointer signs, the chocolates. Remember when we had that situation? It was like a year or two ago, or whatever. And it was a sale that I made. It was like a 50K fee, a sale that I made, and then all the stuff happened. And then I'm getting none of it. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter. It's the owner's. The owner wanted to sell it. He got more. We done the deal for him. That buyer loves us. Whatever the other guy is gonna do, let it be him because that's gonna come back to him.
So you introduced a buyer to a property, and you called the agent. You said, Mr. Agent, I've got this buyer. I've got it done. You know, we can maybe work on a split.
That's
the agent
right.
then turned around and said to you,
he said to me at the start, he goes, yeah, no dramas. Yeah, we'll do
until
something.
you produced the record for the owner.
And then I negotiated it, produced the record for the owner. We got it done, and then the agent goes to me, "No, mate, why would I give you anything?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?"
They
He goes,
turned up.
and then he said this to me. He goes, "Mate, it's dog eat dog out here. It's in real estate." And I was like, "This is."
But then what did you say? You said, "You know what?"
And I was like, "Tim, you know what, man? All good. Best of luck. Like, I wish you all the best. Just take it. I just forgot about it after that. I'm like, whatever. I'm just keep going now."
Because he's doing the best he can with what he knows. How's it his fault that he grew up in a place that talks about competition and all this
all that kind of stuff,
right?
and
So that becomes really, really important, right?
Yeah.
And you did a lot of that because you got to believe that you're the bee's knees of everything.
100%. And I know that like I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. Like
You're the great.
The person the fundamental. If we look back at to what we've been taught, the fundamental thing there was that owner wanted to sell it and he couldn't for ages. He finally got a sale that benefited his family, and he got a bit more than he wanted. So he got that. He got what he wanted, which he needed.
And the owner actually...
I'm gonna start to kick and scream because I didn't get my fee or whatever.
And you played a part in bringing the owner what they needed. Now, it might seem unjust, but the universe is not unjust.
Correct.
The universe will bring about a new situation to course correct that one for both parties.
Yes.
If you hold in there long enough and you keep going, the outcome is always there.
Yes.
The key is to hold yourself in a position of such high value. And I used to say to you guys, you're in your area. You are the CEO
of the area,
remember?
yeah.
And everybody in there learns from you, whether it's the agents, whether
Yeah.
it's the locals, whether it's whatever. Now, how long can you hold that?
Yeah. How long can you be the CEO of your
And
area?
how many times do you slip back down in just to a standard
Yeah.
person working within that area?
Yes.
And then you have to remember, right? You're the
But
CEO.
that's when ego takes that person. Because then they're like, when you start talking number one talk, I'm number one this, I'm number one that, that's where it's
Why'd you
like
have to do it in that like thick Macedonian
No, I
voice?
don't know, but you know what I mean. You start the number one talk. That's where you're like. The person who's selling that, like you used to say to us, well, what was it? Was it the nurse doesn't come and say,
Can you not swear on my podcast? My daughter could be listening.
beep. When you said to us, a nurse doesn't come in and say, 50 lives saved today, I'm the best. Woo! I'm the number one nurse here.
Why are you speaking
What's
like
wrong
Ric
with
Flair?
you?
Why are you speaking like Ric Flair, the wrestler?
Yeah, I know. Because I got his gun.
But again,
yeah, and then
people are doing the best they can with what they know. But you know, you don't want to go home to your family and you're like, look, I was a circus act today.
yeah,
This is what I did, and this is what I spoke about.
Yeah.
You want to actually deliver genuine value to people's lives. And that's
100%.
what you guys did in your areas, James. So you've done it in Beverly Hills,
Yep.
and we spoke about this.
Yep.
We're going to go into an area. We spoke about an office and all sorts of stuff.
Yep.
And then what did you end up saying?
I said I've already I've already how do I want to say it? I've already had most sales in the area, or
You didn't
had
need the
market
office.
share. What for? When people call me and say, "Hey James, I really want to sell my house, and I've heard good things, and you've looked after my friends. They don't care if I have an office here or in Bathurst,
Yeah.
And when I go in there and obviously run this process or whatever, and then obviously with something like with getting an area, Beverly Hills is obviously where I've grown up and an area that I love, and I just found that opening an office and adding all these responsibilities is kind of my self-interest, not really for the person.
So true, man.
Yeah.
Do you know? And
So true. People don't want another office. They want more value.
yeah, that's right.
True?
correct.
And you were able to do that.
Yeah.
And you were able to consistently become a champion of the area.
It'll be more for my ego. Oh, I've got an office in Beverly Hills, But
And,
it doesn't
it-
impact the person that lives there.
And how many times you and I have had a conversation in an instant, you can start to attract and build everyone back into your sphere of influence. And the only time it doesn't happen is when your focus drops into something else.
Yeah.
Anytime you're speaking, that's why I don't like going to too many events. They talk about what you can get.
Yeah, that's right.
All the time. If you come here, you'll become a better agent, you'll earn more money, you'll learn how to do this, you'll learn how to do that. But it shouldn't be self-help. It should be like, how do I help others?
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
That's why we didn't like going to those real estate events. They tell you their story, but you don't actually learn steps or anything.
Well,
And
you can
that's-
learn. You can learn. I think you can learn from anyone and anything. It's the issue becomes two things, I believe, about events. This is what I believe. When you turn up to one of those events, if you're not absolutely clear in what you're trying to improve, you'll end up with a page of notes and not much
that's right,
outcome. The other thing is, if you're there and there's a hint of ungratefulness in the stories that are told. Yeah. So if someone says, I had a car and I had no petrol, and that was the turning point for me. I'm thinking, but you had a car.
Yeah.
How did you afford the car?
You wake up in the morning.
So the conversation starts from a point of ungratefulness. That's
Correct,
the first thing. Yeah. And the second thing, it ends with, what do I get?
Yeah.
And then it's using as trigger words like prospecting and all this sort of stuff. And when you start speaking like that, you know what I believe? I believe, this is a bit crazy, and I believe anything that you're connected to, say you're connected to a marketplace, I believe they hear absolutely everything you say when you're not there, because I believe there's an energy connection between you and your marketplace because you're pouring so much energy. So what ends up happening is they start to hear it, they feel it, they feel, what are you going on about here? You have to think wherever you are. It's what you do, James. Wherever you're talking, however you're talking, whatever you're thinking is aligned with how that person wants to improve their life. If you do that more often than not, you don't have to do much work after that.
Yeah.
It's the right intention.
100%, yeah.
And we've done that a lot.
I was thinking about what you said before. Like, there was that thing I saw on Facebook. It's like there was a guy in a private jet, and then the guy in the car looks at it and says, "I wish I had that." And then the guy in the car, there was a guy on a bicycle looking at the guy in the car, and he's like, "I wish I had a car." And then there was a guy walking saying, "I wish I had a bicycle," and there was a guy in a wheelchair saying, "I wish I could walk." So that's, I think,
That's the thing.
everyone wants something better, but
Yeah,
it's just-
everyone's,
Everyone wants something better, but they don't want to give something better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you know what I mean? I want better. What are you going to give for it? How are you going to add value to people, right? And so you bring in these people with egos, and you look at them, and you're like, I can tell right away the consumer wants nothing from you. And if you say to me, and I ask them sometimes, are you like that when you're sitting with people? No, I'm different. What I talk about is this. And I'm like, well, you're going to be found out eventually. And if you're not found out, then there's going to be 4 people in a marketplace behaving the same. And it's going to be whoever the consumer sees most. And you become a necessary evil until somebody steps into your marketplace like James, and suddenly things change.
Yeah. I got one more thing that you taught us back in the day. Do you remember, you explain this better. Remember that we used to always say the guy is on the ledge and everyone's looking at the guy and thinking, is he going to,
Yeah.
what's he doing? Like, how bad could your life be? Don't jump and whatnot. But then you said there's a fire behind him and no one knows that there's a fire. And I think just Daniel and I are just always trying
Tell
to
that. What's
Can you say it better?
I think it's the guy standing at the edge of a building and everyone down.
Yes.
And I can't. That's the thing. I can't remember the full. You know the story.
Yeah,
Say
yeah,
it better,
yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah.
You gave
We
it
know
to
the
us,
feeling,
but
and
I
we
know
know
what
the
you're talking
empathy
about. I
of
just don't know how to articulate.
Because
you
we're
know
trying to
what
explain empathy, real empathy.
Yeah.
So I'll try my best. So all these people are at the bottom of a building looking up, and there's a guy up there, and everyone's like, "Come on, don't jump! Like you got so much to live for." And all these things.
Yeah,
and
why are you doing that?
People can't see what the guy's going through because there was an explosion up there and there's this big fire that's about to get him. So all goes back to real empathy. So it's not just empathy. It's like seek first to understand before being understood. Like that guy, obviously, he has a choice. Do I get burnt or do I have to jump? And no one can see that. And that's why for the people, trying to do something in sales or trying to be a leader, like you don't know what people are going through. And you got to remember who, you got to take yourself to where you were at their point and, to get the absolute best out of people.
And people say that only applies for, say, a certain price number. Mate,
No, it doesn't at all.
Listen, last thing I want, I've got an owner right there. I go and show you the property. He turns around and says to me, why'd you take this guy through? He was a time waster. I don't want to hear that from the owner. I look bad. I waste your time. You waste my time. You got journalists ringing about this home. I need to find out really clearly who you are. So if I'm asking some direct questions, that's what you want, right? And we're going to do the same in return. And he goes, yeah, that's fine. Anyway, so this guy showed him through the property. We had this Riverwood office up here. Remember? Not this. That was back in the days.
That was like
ago.
a tiny little
It was the smallest office I've ever seen.
Yeah. Electric doors
He
always
rings me
went
up.
off.
He rings me up. He goes, I want to put an offer, but I want to be direct. I said, all right, how direct? I go, you're going to put your maximum? There's no point to negotiate backwards and forwards here, right? And he started laughing. He goes, anyway, I'll come and see you. We'll put something. I want to take it to the owner, and we want to go from there. So he turns up. He sits down. In our office. He walks in, and as he walked in, the first thing I said to him, I said, "What were you expecting? Like, I got those desks from IKEA. Okay, it's not that. We're saving. We got the money. We're just trying to build something bigger." He starts laughing again. Okay, let's go across the road. I go, I'll shout you the coffee because the petrol here would have cost you $60. So we sat down, brought the coffee out. He pulls out a check, gets the contract, and he puts $14 million on the contract. And he said, okay, this is my offer, $14 million. Anyway, we ended up finishing. We had a good conversation about it. We left. We became friends, me and this guy. Didn't end up going through, but the difference is there's a transfer of energy that everybody has a very specific frequency that's authentic. And Bradley actually calls it a code. And inside of that, you're able to emit and transfer. And the more you do that, the more you're going to attract.
Yeah.
And so that, that's how we went about that. So,
But that was like when we went to Elizabeth Bay.
That's a good example.
Ages ago, right? And then you said to me, we had the listing in Elizabeth Bay, we had this unit, looking at the harbour, all this kind of stuff, right? And then I was like shitting myself because I'm like, fuck, man. I was like, Elizabeth Bay, all these people are preppy and all this kind of stuff. And
that's
whatever.
what you were saying.
That's what I was saying, yeah.
What's preppy even mean?
I don't know, like whatever, it's lingo. Anyway, and then you go to me, listen.
We stopped the car as we were driving.
We did.
Yeah.
We stopped the car. Can I say how you said it?
Say the
Was
truth,
he
man.
freaking
I
out?
told you.
Is that
He
why
goes,
stopped?
listen.
Was he fully
He goes,
freaking out?
listen. Shut the fuck up. He goes, shut the fuck up. That fucking bullshit. He goes, if that person and you stand in front of the fucking mirror and you're both butt naked, you're both the same fucking person.
No, I said you're actually physically fitter.
Yeah,
more
you're actually
likely.
physically fitter. That fucking person is standing in front of the mirror, fucking looking at their body and looking at themselves like, and you're there, but you look better, your body's better, you're both the same shit. When she leaves, she puts on a mask. When you leave, you put on a mask. It's the only fucking difference. Cut that fucking shit out. And then I was like, yeah, that's true, man. That's true.
And this was before you listed, hadn't listed, because you have to build the belief. You
Yeah.
have to build the belief. No human's better than you, but you are no better than anybody else.
Correct, yeah.
And so you went there, you stood out the front of the line, and you had those guys from the block come
Yeah,
in.
they're
as your
fucking
first
TV
buyers.
personalities and that. Yeah, they ended
And
up
you
being-
were buzzing, I remember.
Yeah, I was like, this was like fucking like nothing. It was like easy. I did not care.
So
The
what ended up
fancy
happening?
shoes and fancy like little scarves and yeah. And I was like, anyway, so they ended up buying it. We did the deal with them.
Paid the maximum.
Paid the
broke a
maximum
record complex.
cracker, right? They did that. Did the whole, like, I thought I was in suits. I went to city, got them signed and everything and all that kind of stuff.
Back then, it was piece of papers.
Oh, yeah, it was back then. It was nothing like it was today. Anyway, and then after that, I remember a parcel came. I was doing a pre-settlement inspection, and then a parcel came for next door, or a few doors down. And then I went and dropped it off to the lady, and I'm like, oh, hey, this parcel came in from just up the road. I wanted to pass it on to you because I don't know, it's probably going to be something important. They got left there where I sold the house. And then she's like, oh, you're a real estate agent? I'm like, yeah. And she goes, well, can you come and see my house? And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, I'll come in now. I'm like, oh, no drums. And then I went in there.
And
I listed that.
You came back to the office and we went through, here are 6 things.
Yeah.
We had to remember what the owner wants. The owner wants a great experience and the maximum outcome.
Yes.
What's the problem in the area? How do you solve it? And what's your 5-step plan that you're going to do?
Yes.
And you turned up to that place, and I was so proud of you back then because you're just a kid.
Yeah.
No
Oh,
idea.
no, zero listings, zero knowledge.
And we'll put up,
Well, yeah,
we'll
we'll
put
put
up
a photo
we'll put up
of-
the photo
yeah.
of how much of a kid he was,
Yeah.
right? And we'll see it. But you turned up to the place,
Yeah.
listed it,
Yeah.
got a great outcome.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yep.
Took me out to lunch and everything.
And that was the first property you listed. So in an instant, you can go from sitting there in a car, concerned about what everyone thinks about you, and then a pattern shift.
Yeah.
We change the belief. We change what's going to happen. And suddenly your first listing is not in Riverwood. It's in Elizabeth Bay on the water.
Yeah, that's right.
And because who's better than Daniel Sutarov, who's got a great system, who's got a great process, who's a dreamer, that's another thing.
Yeah.
Is a dreamer, there to get the maximum, and who's got an intent that would walk away from the entire fee just to make that lady happy. Who's going
100%.
to beat that?
No.
Nobody's prepared to do that.
No.
That's the difference. So Daniel walks in, he walks out, he's, and 19 years old, and you made that lady's life better.
Yeah.
Right? That's how your career started.
Yeah, that's right.
Your career starts at the point of belief shift.
Yeah. That's
If-
exactly
but
right.
people
Yeah,
say,
100%.
how long does it take? How long does it take for you to change your belief?
Yeah.
Right? And that's happened with you too, Jane.
Yeah, I remember we never sold anything in Beverly Hills. This was like very early on. And then you had a house, Mark Junior's house in Peakhurst, and we're selling that. And I met this lady. And I said, I was excited because I was from Beverly Hills. I'm like, Omar, I booked in this lady. She wants to sell
It's a
in
long
Beverly
time
Hills.
ago, yeah.
And you were like, you're going to that. And I'm like, like freaking out. And you said similar stuff to me and gave me the belief that what I've learned, the process, the empathy is just, it's unbeatable.
Follow the system of belief,
exactly
empathy,
right.
and it creates
and that
energy.
5-step process to maximize the outcome. And then I went there and then I listed it and I came back with the agreement and that's it. The rest.
And you
is it.
were
we young. Like,
You
and that's why there's like 17, 18-year-olds in our company.
That's right. And you built it, but it's the important thing was to know what you were actually building and what you were doing. And you did that. You did that really well. And both of you have done that. And you've gone on and you're able to train it and you're able to transfer it. But it's not just about like, people say, all right, well, it's belief of the future. Yeah, it's belief of the future. But you know what happens when you believe in a future? Your present action changes. I don't think it's the law of attraction. I think it's the law of action. And action can only take place after you believe in something different than you believe today for the future.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Your next step is instantly different. So you start moving towards what you actually want, right? And then with empathy, that's the key to unlock into people's hearts. And then with the processes, you're able to problem solution. So how many calls do you sit there making, James? Be honest.
Yeah, straight out.
What is it? Like, let's put it out there. What do you
It's
do?
pretty much all inbound because as I said,
Yeah, but before that, let's say before that.
how
like
many do I do?
What were you doing before that? Like, what's the exact truth? What did you do?
Probably like 20 calls a day out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the call.
And now it's less. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the calls were really.
Really to like it was not like the young guy that I just hired, Nicholas. He's like, wow, I can't believe when you call, you don't ask for anything. And that's why I'm like, how do you get a rejection? How does anyone get a no?
But we do ask for something.
We ask for trust.
We ask for trust.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's how you got to see it.
Yes.
Every conversation you make, you're asking for trust.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you
And
ask?
it's easy to get that because people
If you-
people get in an Uber every day and they don't know who the driver is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's
to
right.
ask for trust is very easy, and that's where you start a relationship, and that's how you get the most out of it, and how people.
And we always say, ask for trust, but remember why you're there. You're there to improve their life. They have a belief that moving from here to here changed their life. That's why we always say we honor people with the belief to make life-changing jumps, right?
Yeah.
Whoever teases that doesn't even understand what they're
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah.
Go and speak to, again, Kelly in the marketplace
Yeah.
and see that her life, she has to have a certain belief to make so many changes to improve that life and make that move. and then you're a part of it. So we see that first. Once you understand that, then you know how much the maximum outcome changes their life. And once you understand that, then you need a solution. You need to find out what is the problem that's stopping that from happening. And once you understand that, then you need to go and get the solution. And once you understand that and you pass it on to anybody with a good heart, they go from here to here overnight.
I remember, isn't there, there's that quote that says, trust takes years to build, seconds to break, years to rebuild,
And
or
we
whatever.
said-
And then you go to us, that's not true. You said trust takes seconds to build, seconds to break, and years to rebuild.
That's right.
Right? And you said that because you're like, well, if you go and get an Uber and you get into the car, you don't know the guy, you don't know his history, you don't know his driving record, you don't know any of that.
get on a
You
plane,
get into the car and then
You
you
get on
go.
a plane, you don't know who the pilot
You know
is.
the
No,
pilot is. But if
it's
you get
trust.
into the car and then the guy 30 seconds in goes for a red light, you're like, fuck. And then you go and he shucks a sharp left, you're like, whoa. And then now straight away in seconds, your trust is broken. You're like, well, I don't know about this guy.
And would you get back into that car?
No, I wouldn't.
Exactly.
So that's why I mean, I'm like, when on what James is saying, how we go in there, we're asking for trust, right? That's because like if an agent goes and sees, say they go and see an owner and then they have years of sending him thank you cards and birthday gifts and all this kind of stuff, and then they lose a listing and then they're like, how did I lose? I was talking to this guy for 5 years. What the hell happened? It's because probably the other guy went in there and just built trust with him straight away.
Yeah.
Without doing all
But
that.
you do have to know the outcome you're there to do, right? Yeah, you have to know what outcome am I got, what problem am I solving, what am I doing? Because like what happened with you when you first started,
Yeah.
this was before you got that first listing and before you helped that lady.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a lovely lady in this area.
That's why I remember. That's why I know this.
Yeah, and what happened, Daniel?
So I went and
This is a for everyone out there. This is a Daniel Sutarov classic.
yeah.
Get ready. The classic is
Oh
coming.
yeah, this is.
I just did that with my hands.
Yeah. So I go. I remember. I came to an open home and I was just talking with her, and then she's like, "Yeah, I live in this street, blah blah." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, no worries." I put her into the database.
And you asked me to come with you. I said, no, go.
Yeah, and then you're like, "Go by yourself," and I'm like, "I'll go there." And then I went and saw her, and I was just talking with her more and more.
And I used to wait for you. I go, where were you? You've been gone for 4 hours.
Yeah, I was like,
speaking
I
to
went
her.
to go see. Yeah,
She's great.
Yeah, she's
Painting her
she's so
house.
nice, blah blah.
You were taking her gifts.
No. I remember like a couple of weeks went by, and then I'm like, "Oh, how you going?" Blah blah. She goes, "Oh yeah, I'm just a bit under the weather." I'm like, "Oh no," I'm like, "I'm gonna go get fucking vapor drops and."
Not because you're trying to. It just gives you.
No,
that
because
sort
I'm
of-
actually sick, and I'm like, it's slack, and then she's an old lady, and I'm
Yeah.
like, whatever. And then I went and dropped them off, and I'm like, all good, no dramas, blah blah blah. And then I talked to her just about normal stuff, and then like 3 months later,
This shows you the man's intent. Everyone out there. Go
yeah,
on.
and then 3 months later, bang, the house on the market,
And you went to see her.
and I'm like,
With who?
yeah, no,
Someone else.
with someone else, bay house on the market. I'm like, okay, actually I don't share that.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm like, what happened? Why didn't you ask me to see your house? I want to see your house, man. And it's just like, I didn't even know you were real estate.
Why did you think you were there?
I'm like, what do you think? I dress up in a suit every day? She's like, oh, I didn't know,
Your
love.
intent
I didn't know you
wasn't
were
just-
actually a real
You
estate
didn't do those
agent.
things just for the
I fucking on my fucking Uber Eats, a fucking courier in a suit. Yeah, and then after that, I remember I had to go to home. I'm like, the whole drive home, I'm like, fuck, how am I going to say this, man? How am I going to tell him? He's going to fucking...
No, all I said to you is I said,
He's also random crop.
I think when I called her, she didn't even know where I was calling from.
It's like buy a friend.
but you made it right better. And then what I said to you is I said, follow it through. Once it sells, make sure you go and drop something off to her.
Yeah.
And make sure you follow it. And you did that.
Yeah, I
because
did
she was
that,
a
of
great
course,
lady.
yeah, no.
Because it wasn't just to sell a house.
No, it wasn't.
genuine.
That's
yeah.
the irony. Wasn't even about selling your
That's
house.
why we laugh.
Yeah.
now.
That's
It's
why
like
we
whatever.
laugh.
Because
Yeah.
I never talked
And
to her about selling a house.
It was that day when I thought this Daniel Sutarov is going to do some special things because he is not interested. What he's interested in is the person liking you.
That's right. That's all. That's
And,
all. Yeah.
and you went there and you did that beautifully.
Yeah.
And to this day, mate, everything you do that all the time, which is great.
The main thing is that it's not even about real estate. Any industry, you're an accountant, you sell coffees. No matter what we do, it's treat people how they want to be treated, not how you want to be
Yeah,
treated.
that's right.
Yeah, man.
And that's why we don't talk here is just giving examples of real estate, but no matter what industry I believe we're in, if we were to be in, if you just have that
So
mentality.
treat people how they want to be treated.
Yeah, not how you want to be
Not
treated.
how you want to be treated.
Because
Right?
then people say, oh, I had a bad reaction there, you know. I wouldn't have reacted like that. Well, you're not them. And you
Yeah,
don't know
yeah.
what- yeah. So that's...
And you did that really well, James. Like, let's put an example out there.
Yep.
Let's say, and this is how obviously the app was developed, but let's say someone comes to you and says, hey, James, the ad copy's off. How do you react to that? What's the first thing you're thinking?
Right now, from what we've learned, is...
What were you thinking
why
at the
didn't
start?
I-
What were you thinking at the
At the
start?
start, oh, who cares, man? Relax. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
Now it's why weren't we fast enough to see this before the owner even got it?
And
Why didn't we check it first?
And
Why
what
did
type of owner reacts to something like that?
a certainty-driven owner? And we should have addressed that they're certainty-driven. But anyone really should, if that's the ad, that's where we should be. But yeah, addressing what self-interest a person has, knowing that, and treating them how they want to be treated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you do that every day with what you're doing. So you're out there now, James. People want to get in because you obviously you're a champion of the area and you've just actually you're about to go to the next level. But what are you doing? And obviously the app's going to help you with this now. But what do you do? You're in an area. You want to give value. Where do you start? What do you do?
So the first thing that you taught me was, if I had a family member that we let's say we have a charity event for them. Now, we're trying to sell tickets to this charity event. We're trying to get people to this event. Now, a lot of people, when they come into these type of businesses, they start cold calling. And you showed me this thing with, circles that goes all the way around. And, trying to find cold people and calling them and saying, hey, mate, I've got a charity event. Do you want to come? Who is this? No, I'm not interested. So the first thing you said was, start with the hottest people in your life and then move external. So I know if I have a charity event, the first people that are going to come are my mum and dad. I'll call up my mum and dad, they'll be there. Then I call my brother. Then I call my cousins. Then I call close friends. Then I call friends that might be close to this issue. I'll call other families that are, they are even hotter, for other families that are in this issue. So anyone that's trying to, whether you got a food truck or a real estate business, you start with your closest people and then you move it externally and outwards, because once there's like an explosion of a good message and good intent and people know your character and you have something great to provide to people, that's where it starts to expand. But I wouldn't go out and try and ask some media company to find you some 30 real estate, leads. I wouldn't call, some, coaching guru who's probably never done it himself. You start with your, hottest people and you go outwards.
And look, and to be fair, a lot of these coaches out there, they're not bad. What they say is okay. I feel like the transfer of energy, because they haven't been in the thick of it, the transfer of energy, the little details. Yep. So like you could go further than that. Like you've done it, right? So if I was to ask you and you were mentoring me, James, well, James, I've called my family. They know who I am, but now who's the next hottest people that I should call that I don't actually, like, they're not my family? Where do I go? Where do I start? What am I looking for here?
Okay, so if you're, as I said, what are we, a real estate business?
Let's talk real estate. And
Talk real estate.
I love how you just said that.
Yeah.
Well, you said...
There's a lot of people here that aren't real estate.
But you just said, what are we here? Food shop business, real estate business. Yes. So it's a universal principle.
Correct.
Right? Okay, let's go with real estate, and then
let's go real estate. If I was food truck, what's the problem here?
Yes.
You've got to have a problem and a solution.
Yep.
With every single business.
Okay.
Because if you're just going to be like everyone else, then what solution you have to provide to people that you create a brand that's going to be loved, everlasting. That's what you always told us. Nike, Chanel, these are loved. No one loves, some other companies, but these are some companies that are loved. So with real estate, I've grown up in Beverly Hills, so I picked my own farm core area is my area that I know. I went to school there. I lived there. My parents still live there. I have love for it. So I wouldn't go in an area that I don't love. So that's where I start. Now I addressed in this area, a lot of people are saying, and you will know this in your own suburbs, is this area isn't at the potential it should be. It looks a little bit kind of maybe undervalued.
Yeah.
So now you have a secret sauce or something that's going to impact.
Provided
people.
you have a genuine solution.
And a genuine in good intent for that to happen. And let's say, I've gone to my family. The next step is I live in that little pocket. Let's say I have zero business. Well, the first people I'm going to go knock on their doors and let them know I'm an agent and let them know what's happening and what I see is a problem are my mum's neighbours.
Yep.
We're in a little cul-de-sac. They have a Christmas party at the end of the year, in the street. I'll go door knock Richard next door. How you going, Richard? Just wanted to let you know this is what's happening.
Yep.
And then I'll start elsewhere.
And the key would be to actually fully. This is what people don't like. You go and you fully understand.
Be in tune with
Yep.
what the area, with the locals, what they're saying.
And the true issue,
Yes.
not a made
and
up
the true
one.
issue, correct.
And then be in tune with the true solution.
Correct.
Now let me see why people say you want to take this worldwide. Let me show you where the opportunity is here to help people. Go and ask somebody in Germany right now, what do you think of a real estate agent? What do you think they say? Go and ask someone in Italy. I got my developers in Pakistan. I said, I'm curious. What do you think of a real estate agent? He put a laughing emoji face and he says, oh, over here, no one trusts them. So it's not that they don't trust the person. They don't trust the behavior of the person because the behavior of the person's taught by structures that don't make sense in relation to human relationships. Yeah. So I said to our developer, I said, can you take the app and tell a family, well, I go, what's the fee in Pakistan? He told me. I said, well, we'll do it for free. Let's pick a family in Pakistan, give them the app. And let's see if we can find the problem of why people don't like real estate agents in Pakistan. And let's see if we can find the solution. And then let's see if the system can talk to the buyer and the seller and do the deal with agent overseeing. So we're doing that now. And so the reality is, in every single country, it's the same thing. So if we were to stop and think about, you take your Beverly Hills footprint, and there's some nice agents in Beverly Hills too. There's some agents.
all nice people.
There's some agents there that are a smidgen away from doing something exceptional, but that you can see
Everywhere.
You can see everywhere, but you can see the frequency, just in the word, what they say, what they do, what they send. They could go to the next level if they just tweak that, right? Yeah. So you can. That's how I know you can go worldwide because of that problem.
Yeah.
The same problem you're solving in the area that you work in. Yeah.
Well, and you used to say to us, you're like, when you close the door to go home, or when you close the door, when you shut your eyes and you go to sleep, then you just know that your conscience is clear. There's not, because there's people out there that, whether it's real estate, sale, whatever the case is, they're doing big numbers and all this kind of stuff. But you kind of like, some people you think, okay, are you going to sleep at night and your conscience is clear? Or are you waking up and your heart's beating through the roof?
That's so true. I love one thing that you did with us. You're like, have this number of how many, transactions you want to do. That's our only thing, because Daniel and I will get that number and then we're like, all right, we're off for a week.
Yeah.
And that's where you have this peace, because you, and I've heard this from Tony Robbins too, is the worst thing about people that hit a goal, and some billionaires are like this, they hit the goal and then they don't feel fulfilled. That's my biggest fear.
And people say to me sometimes, but there's a guy out there, he's doing $10 million, and I know he doesn't really do the right thing all the time, so he's successful. And I'm like, well, hold on. How do you know if there's what's going on in his head? How do you know if there's peace or no peace? How do you know if the guy doesn't sit there worrying when he gets home? Do you know what's worse? Is somebody giving you what you want and you still work out? It's not what you want.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing. So the guy who's got $10 million, don't assume that he's sitting there and he hasn't been. If God's giving him $10 million, but he's giving him worry, the $10 million becomes worthless.
Yes.
So ultimately, you get to a point where you cannot assume. Because I believe the worst thing that could happen is you get what you believe you want, only to work out you didn't want it.
That's the worst.
I think that's what you want to avoid, right?
Yeah.
So there's this saying, and I love this, right? And it says, and you guys, that's why you guys are so good. This is for the intention thing. What you think is for belief. What you think in secret comes to pass. Your eyes are but your looking glass. Your mouth utters things it does not believe. Your secret thoughts are what proceed. Does that tell you? Has that gone way over Daniel's head, that one?
I think so. That was crazy. No, that was,
Right?
Yeah. No, that really means the
You want to explain that to me again?
yeah. What that means is the thoughts that you really have in your head, your private thoughts, they'll come out eventually, and then you're like.
But they do come out, because even like sometimes, my team members and stuff, I have to catch them. They'll use words like, "Oh, no worries."
Yeah.
Oh, wow. What about what happened the other day?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? And we got caught into it.
Yes.
What?
One of James's teams
Yeah.
writes on the group,
Something
"No
left out.
doubt you're gonna win."
Yeah.
And then I
Omar
said to
messaged me
James,
something in a high frequency, like something, and then I wrote, yeah, no doubt. And then he's
I
like,
wrote to James, you see this word? Tell your guy never to use that word again.
1,000%.
Right? And then guess what happened?
seeped
One
into
day
my
later,
mind.
James sends me a message. And what did you use?
no doubt. Yeah.
And I said, James, isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
As they say, what was it? The words
Spelling.
Yeah.
So they say spelling, when you spell something out, is like your spelling, which means you're casting a spell.
Yeah.
So when you use certain words, you're hypnotizing the
We learned a
person.
lot from Bradley with that. Yes.
Yeah, Bradley's like the king of that.
Yeah.
There's no better than him, right? Bradley's the king of that.
Yeah.
But effectively, you are hypnotizing yourself.
Yeah.
And when you start doing that,
Yeah.
then it comes up elsewhere. So you just got to be really careful.
And that's why, with what you just said, your thoughts that are manifesting your reality. If your thoughts aren't where they need to be, you'll start hearing those words,
You'll hear them.
and that's why they're gonna keep.
And
keep
you
on
can
that
hear them in a
path.
positive or a negative contents, but you kind of hear them.
Yeah.
And I think when you go to somebody's house, we spoke about this yesterday. Yeah. So you go to somebody's house, there's 3 types of agents that we've seen, right? What were they? There's the
Over-promiser,
there's the overpromiser,
the economist,
the economist,
and the dreamer with a process.
and the dreamer with the process who gets the maximum.
Yeah.
And the only one that doesn't make it is actually the economist, which they're telling the truth, but they won't make it because
really realist optimist.
yeah, because they're transferring the energy by using data in something that's logic only gets you somewhere, belief takes you everywhere. But the overpromiser will get the listing, but they'll set themselves up without a process to put themselves in a position of losing character, which is the worst you can lose, right? And then the person who says it's about getting the maximum, here's a problem, here's a solution, and can clearly reverse engineer that plan in a structured process, then communicate it. That's the second part. You need to be able to communicate it.
Correct, yeah.
By using the right words at the right time, you start to build the owner up to a climax that they'll never forget in their life. And so you got to ask yourself, are you the dreamer who believes the maximum is the maximum, whatever it is, no matter what's around it? Do you have a plan linked to that? Are you the economist who starts talking about what happened down the road?
Yeah.
Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile. Didn't happen ever. All of a sudden, 4 people or 3 people right after Roger Bannister. He wasn't an economist. If Roger Bannister was an economist, he would have said,
he didn't overpromise and say, "I'll do it in 3 minutes."
And exactly. And if
You need the
Roger,
leg speed of it. I don't know.
exactly, and if Roger Bannister overpromised and said, "I could do it in 2 minutes,"
Yeah.
everybody would have said, "We're going to watch you." And then when he let him down, he loses his character. So that's a good point, James. But if Roger Bannister says, I'm going to get the maximum, I believe in everything that I have, and I'm going to go out there and do something spectacular, everybody's going to watch him, waiting to see what this guy's maximum is. Now, he doesn't look at time. He doesn't look at what's near him. He doesn't look at anything around him.
He's a scientist.
He just goes,
Yes.
okay? And that belief gets him to break the record. Now, guess what happens to the economist and the overpromiser in the market once Roger Bannister breaks the barrier of belief and shatters the 4-minute mile? What happens to the economist?
He gets more belief now.
Okay, so what does the economist do?
Breaks it after.
Well,
Just by
someone's
this
done
much.
it.
And how much do they break it by after the economist?
Like
Just by
nothing.
this much,
Yeah.
until another Roger Bannister comes in. So
it
there's
through.
nothing special about an economist getting a result after you've got a result. After the dreamer maximum guy gets the result, there's nothing special about the economist who goes and beats it by a smidgen.
Correct,
What's
yeah.
special was the original guy, and there's nothing special about the guy that told the crowd, "I'll run it in 2 minutes," but runs it in 3. There's nothing special about that guy. What's special is about the bloke or the female with ultimate self-belief that says, I am going to get the maximum, whether it's out of myself, whether it's for you. That's what I stand for. This is my plan. This is how I'm going to execute it. Let's go. And then people want to watch that because you set a new benchmark. I had one owner a while ago. He says to me, Omar, I want to get a record for this place. And I said, well, the record is X. If we just go for a record, we might only get $1,000 more than X. Equally, what we need to go for is the maximum. Yeah. That could be 200 grand above the record. It could be 200 grand below the record. I don't know. But we're going for the maximum. We ended up breaking the record by a mile. I rang him up and I said, well, I'm glad I didn't listen to you getting the record because we would have ended up $1,000 above the last sale. And he started laughing. I said, it's about the maximum. Wherever you end up, you can't end up greater than the maximum, right? And that's what we got to go for. Yeah.
Got to mention another example. That one, Theo Ange Postacoglu. And he says second season.
Ange Postacoglu, where are you,
I always win something
Ange.
in in my second year.
You'll be on the podcast.
We're waiting.
20. Give me 2029. No, what is it? 2026 now?
2025 now.
2025. Give me 2028 because, or maybe
2020,
2027.
2020, I reckon,
2027 because I've got
reckon-
stuff to do like
I
taking this thing
reckon-
worldwide.
I reckon he'll be on the podcast in September 2025. No, October 2025 after he's sacked. That's
See
not
that
good
right
podcast.
there?
See that?
That's the type of stuff. That's the economist right there.
right there.
That's the type of stuff that get you kicked off this podcast.
He's upset because
Yeah.
Manchester United lost
Anyway.
in the final. But anyway,
But what did we say about Ange?
Yeah.
Honduras.
yes.
What did I say about him?
Back when he was the Socceroos coach against Honduras, you said this guy's going to go
I
far
got a
and
video.
do
I'll
big
put it up.
things.
I got a video. I'll put it up.
Yeah. And then he obviously qualified.
Now, what did Daniel say?
Then you said, he's been an economist about it the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh, nah. He has very low belief in
Yeah.
himself when it comes in.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Oh, hold on.
Yeah.
Your belief broke at some point too. We'll get to Jackson
love
Irvine
Ange.
in a second.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
and
No, no,
Ange's
no, no, no,
belief,
no, hold on,
fucking
hold on.
halfway through the season,
Hold on.
when
What do
you're
you
like,
mean?
yeah, he's
But
probably
why
gonna
did
go
I-
now.
No,
He's
no,
probably
no, no.
not.
But
No, no,
I said to you, Ange, when Ange was coaching in the A League and he ended up coaching Australia, away match Honduras, I said to you, this person is going to end up right at the top because he's got problem he's solving, a solution. He's got a structured, principle-centric. He believes clearly, which means he can transfer
person, yeah.
belief. Yeah. He has a process to get there, and he doesn't
Playing
deviate.
style, yes.
He doesn't deviate, right?
Yes.
So he had a playing style, a structure, and also he gives really positive affirmations back to his
Simple
team.
messaging.
Simple
That's it.
messaging.
Yep.
So anyway, he goes on.
Yep.
How many-
So it's Honduras game. He gets the Socceroos to the World Cup, quits, goes to Japan. I've got the messages with you and all the pictures. Yokohama hadn't won a title in a long time. He wins there. He goes to Celtic. Daniel can't handle it. He wins again. He wins a treble. He goes to Tottenham. You've had managers like Jose Mourinho, won everything. Antonio Conte won everything. Pochettino took them to a Champions League final, couldn't win. Ange Postecoglou, first season, comes fifth for a team that, just lost Harry Kane, their big superstar.
Yep.
Second season, injuries, whatnot. But what I loved about watching Tottenham this year is, and I don't get how some of the Tottenham, some people or some the people in the club thought they didn't understand how he just focused on the Europa League. But what you said is he was blinkered with one centric focus of I always win in my second year.
Yep.
And he put all his eggs in that one basket, and he had belief. And like you said, the thoughts in his head is, I'm going to win. I'm winning in my second year. And when he spoke, he said, I always win in my second year.
With complete conviction.
With complete conviction. Everyone laughed, like you said. Everyone laughed. And he took them there, and he did what no one else could do.
Yeah.
He was the dreamer with the process.
The dreamer to get the maximum, doesn't put limits. Didn't know overpromise, dreamer with the maximum.
Yes.
But he effectively put out something out there that you've got to do out there in your business to the public. That I have a plan, I have a process, I'm getting the maximum, this is how I go about it, and I don't deviate. And you will actually see many times in press conferences, people ask him to deviate, but he returns to one central argument. Right. And for everybody out there, it's your belief. It's crazy to some, but to you, it's done. It doesn't matter what whatever somebody says against your own belief. Let me tell you this. I always say this to people. If you don't make it somewhere that you plan to make it, you never believed it in the first place, right? Because whoever said something to you, if they were able to move you off that, you were never going there. It wasn't true belief. But if you're completely blinkered, like you'll look back at this podcast years from today and people will say, this guy was talking crap, but oh no, actually, look what they ended up doing,
Correct.
right? And then people will hop on that bandwagon. But that's what Ange does, and that's what you do when you go and transfer to the people that you speak to. What are some of the things, James, before we go, we've learned about that we do before? Actually, you would have done it before an appointment. You do it before a meeting. You do it before you go and meet somebody. What do you do first before you go into a meeting?
I actually can show you what I did before this.
Yep. So you would have done something, right?
Yeah, so I write in my notes.
So
I
James
set a
does this
vision.
all the time.
I set a vision for before every appointment, before every time. Sometimes even at home, if I want to have just a good night with the family, or if I've got a listing that I really want to get, or if there's a situation where there's tension and I want to fix it, I will write out a future that I want to see. And Omer's obviously told me this. So even for this one, I wrote, that was the best podcast anyone has ever listened to. Omer's so happy with us. Said that was the greatest podcast. It just flowed. So many things that came to Daniel and I in the moment. He got the most views, and even Omer got paid from it. So
that's good.
I even wrote that. And I sent it to Daniel so we could both have that. And
How
here
do
we
I
are.
get paid? How do I get paid from a podcast?
I don't know.
I don't
I
even
just-
know that.
I
Tell me. I like that. I
I
like
wanna-
that. How do I get
yeah,
paid from
yeah.
this podcast?
I believe in you, man. I want to get you.
That's
see you
cool,
get
man.
paid.
You hear that? I don't know anything about payment in podcasts. You just dropped it into my subconscious. Let me look that
Mate,
up.
Mate, I want to see.
Can somebody share this around? Is it the more shares, the more you get
I have
paid?
no idea, but that's just came to my mind and I wrote
I'll
that.
tell you what we'll do. Every dollar we get from the podcast, we'll donate it to our ego. No, I'm joking. We'll donate it somewhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, any other questions for now? Anything you want to touch on before we go that you can leave
The
with
last
people?
thing, yeah, Jackson Irvine, man. Come on, we've got to.
All right, here we go.
So
The contentious issue.
when we went to Qatar to watch the World Cup, we went us three together, and
we're going to tag you in this Jackson Irvine because
before-
I believed, my friend. I believed.
I'll make a quick point. Before,
Mate, if one person
before
does.
before the France game, we thought me, Omar, and Daniel were sitting there going, "We're gonna get smashed, man.
Yeah.
This is." We were nervous, and Bradley.
Mate, there's a photo as well that
Bradley
I took.
was it? Bradley was
Bradley
like,
was.
"Don't
Wait, there's a
worry about-
photo that
don't worry
I-
about friends, big boy.
We were
We're
sitting
gonna-
by the pool going,
Wait,
"We
wait.
are gonna get flogged here."
Yeah, and there's a
8-0.
photo. There's a photo that I took of, and I got it on my phone. It's the Australia team because we were sitting right on the front row.
Front row. That was
row.
the best tickets.
Right, we had Mbappe, everyone, Dembele, everyone was right in front of us.
Yeah.
And I remember there was the Australia team in a huddle, and there was just I got the photo, and Mbappe is just standing there like this, I kind of like just standing with his hands in his pocket, and I was like, fuck. Like we get smoked here. Like Mbappe does not, he does not
And
care
then-
one bit about Australia.
What did Bradley say? Within the first 10
Bradley,
minutes.
yeah.
There you go. They'll score in the first 9
No,
minutes.
I'll get a
big
goal
boy.
in the first 9
And then
minutes.
I'll go Bradley as friends, but we've told this story before. Score a goal. And,
Yeah,
and
you
I
told
love
the
how- I
story,
love how he
but
says
we
it.
were there.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
why
yeah.
it was crazy. Anyway, we obviously watched our team, like Australia, progress. They scored against Denmark. Those goals went wild. And then Omar made one comment. He said, "Jackson Irvine, who plays in the second division in Germany, just so you know, great guy though, and he's
How do you know he's a great? I think, mate, I tell you what.
He said he could play for Real Madrid.
I'm telling you, this Jackson Irvine.
And when me and Daniel
You could play for,
disagreed,
you put him in the middle. You put him in
Because-
midfield of Real
because
Madrid,
of how
and he'll
right
tear
he
it apart.
was.
He'll fit in perfectly in the midfield.
And then
I
what
was
happened?
like,
He's disagreed.
we disagreed, and then Omar, yeah, you tell us
No,
no, excited
you-
about the belief.
Well,
and
you
the
guys
hierarchy.
disagreed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you disagreed
Yeah.
because somebody out there
Yeah.
has told him and you
Yeah.
that he
You need
can't
to be of a certain.
But you need to be at a
stature,
certain
place,
stature.
yeah.
You got to be a place. You have to have a name. It was back to Elizabeth Bay. There are certain people in this world that are better than you for whatever it may be. And I'm like, well, hold on. Let's look at this properly. For the first 20 minutes of that game in midfield, he was playing against world-class players. He kept the ball beautifully. He knocked it out. He was tackling. Even if it's for 15 minutes of that game, inside that 15 minutes, if that 15 minutes of how he performed could be repeated, why couldn't he then go play for Real Madrid? Because he's at that level. So the only thing that stopped him wasn't his talent, it was his consistency of executing that 15 minutes, which means all he's got to do is work out how he performed in that first 15 minutes and keep repeating it. And then suddenly he's playing in an underdog team, which is up 1-0 against France. Somebody sees it and they go, hey, listen, come to the next level and the next level.
Yeah.
And if he's gone to the top level and performed in that 15 minutes, then all he's got to do is do it for 30, then 45, then an hour.
That's what you showed
and
us.
that's
That's
what-
one thing I got to give you. It's a game of inches.
It's a game, yes.
And no one is that much better than you.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
I remember
Like
listening
with
to
Ronaldo,
Novak
he-
Djokovic. His success points was like 51%, and the next guy was like 48. So the number one in the world is like that much.
Yeah.
It's 2-3% away.
It's just have that belief in yourself that you are better than what.
But at the same time, here's the difference that I think is probably between him and the rest. Like I was saying to my own nephew, I said, mate, if someone needs to pull a string in your back for you to go train, you're not going to make it. I don't care how good you are. It's impossible.
anything. Yeah.
Motivation
like
ain't
you
gonna
can
help you,
do,
mate.
and I've got another photo which you can put up, and you had Richie on the cover of Ausreal TV with
Yeah.
an Australia jersey.
Actually, we'll put that on there. Yeah, we put and you know, and I said to Richie, I said, you are 19 years old, mate. You are 19 years old. I have seen you dominate some games. I have seen you not. Here's the difference between 19 to 22. You can. I said, I'm hitting 40. You, at the end of the day, I cannot dream of playing in the UEFA Champions League final, no matter how much belief I have. Okay,
Correct, yeah.
well, maybe someone out there is going to fix his knee and have a resurrection, and maybe I don't know, maybe Jesus out there will come back and play. But my point is, cannot do that. You between 19 to 22 right now, you can dream. I don't care what anybody says. It's possible.
Yeah.
You can dream of walking out in the UEFA Champions League final.
Yeah.
You have the right to dream. You are within striking distance of the A-League. You have the talent. You have the speed. Your times are as fast as He's like Mbappe's running 10.5. He's running 9.5, 9.6. Haaland runs 9.5, 9.6. His speed and explosiveness is at world's best level. His stamina and endurance for speed is at world's best level. I got the stats for him, the best players in the world. I said, you have the aerobic capacity of the best in the world. You have the speed of the best in the world. You are 19 years old. You can look up right now and say between 19 to 22, I'm going to walk out and play the Champions League final. What a world to live in. What a world to live in. But what are you going to do? You have two paths. The path where someone's got to pull a string in your back to go and do the extras, and the path where you're licking the grass and they can't get you off that pitch till 10 o'clock at night. That guy can get to the UEFA Champions League final. Which vision do you have? And that's what I mean. Yes. It's who's prepared to do that. Yeah. How many people do you hire are not prepared to do that? Well, where was Camley the other night at 7 o'clock with you because you had to do something? Yeah. Where were the rest of the guys in your team? Okay, the new guys have to rise to a new level of belief. Yes. That's what Osrulti does. But where was Camley? Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to say to you. You can't beat a person like that because they're blinkered, right?
Yeah, because you put that out. You sent that out to everyone in 2210. The magazine, the Osrulti magazine that had Richie Schweiky.
When he was 9 years old.
The front page with the Australia jersey holding a soccer ball.
At 9 years old.
Yeah. And we sent that out to all of 2210. So you've put it out into the universe that you will be able to hold that ball and play for Australia. It's now up to him now.
Yeah, it's up to him. But I've got an idea. If you do get paid for podcasts, you and I said we're going to start a little foundation for younger generation of sports people trying to get up there and make it something. Maybe we'll do something.
What we'll do is,
because I've got a young guy who's an upcoming boxer.
We'll call Bradley.
We're going to call
We'll call Bradley.
Yes.
We'll get him on this podcast. He'll be on this podcast. Or we'll call Bradley and then he'll say, "You can't afford me, mate."
Yeah, hey. Big boy, you can't afford me, big boy.
I love that guy, man. Bradley, I love that guy. Any other questions, guys? You right with everything? All right, good. That's it.
Thank you.
All right. See you on the next one.
Cheers.
Hey, Daniel. Peter Overton.
Have a great evening.